Everyone gave up on Grandma. Except me. My fight to save her from a dark secret. Claire stared out her window, watching the autumn leaves flutter to the ground, their vibrant colors a sharp contrast to the muted tones of dread that filled her heart. In the quaint town of Willow Creek, where the streets echoed with laughter and warmth, only the shadows in her home whispered of sorrow. Grandma Evelyn had shrunk into herself, her spirit dimming faster than the fading daylight. Every family gathering turned into a hushed affair, the joy of shared stories clouded by uncertainty. It wasn't always like this. She could still hear Grandma's laughter, a cascade of silver chimes that danced through the air. But now, that laughter echoed like a ghost. Where once her home brimmed with stories of courage and resilience, it now stood steeped in gloom. Each room filled with the smell of bygone days, memories locked away in fragile mind corridors that crumbled under the weight of an enigmatic illness. While the family grimaced in frustration, weary of their grandmother's mental decline, Claire felt an unyielding grip of compassion and determination. "I won't let her fade away," she declared, her fists clenched. Little did she know, the journey she was about to embark on would tear at the seams of familial loyalty. One drizzly afternoon, as rain pelted the windows and shadows danced on the walls, Claire stumbled upon a cardboard box while rummaging through the attic for family memorabilia. Dust motes swirled as she lifted the lid, revealing a trove of yellowed letters, their corners brittle and stained with time. The writing was elegant, yet urgent, as if the ink had spilled secrets long buried. Each letter hinted at betrayal and sorrow, pieces of a puzzle that whispered of a past entwined with darkness. Suddenly, the air thickened, a prickling tension gripping her as the mystery unfolded. Claire read snippets aloud, piecing together a narrative filled with anguish and doubt. "Forgive me. I never wanted you to know. The past must remain buried." Her heart raced, each word igniting a fire within. "Claire, leave it be," a voice interrupted. It was Mr. Henderson, the imposing neighbor with eyes lurking at the doorway like a portent of doom. Some secrets are better kept in the shadows. Claire's pulse quickened, an electric jolt of defiance surging through her. "You don't understand. This could mean something for Grandma," she shot back, trembling with a mix of fear and determination. Mr. Henderson's expression softened momentarily, a flicker of sympathy in his furrowed brow. "You don't know what you're asking for," he warned, stepping back into the shadows. Sometimes the truth is a heavier burden than ignorance. With frustration boiling inside her, Claire knew the family was fraying under the strain. "You all want to forget, but I need to dig deeper. I won't lose her to the dark." She felt the walls closing in. A gathering storm. Amidst the chaos, a glimmer of hope sparked in her heart. Maybe, just maybe, she held the key to saving her grandmother and healing the rift in their family. With her resolve hardening, she gathered the letters, each page a yearning for understanding, or a warning against unveiling the past. The journey was just beginning, and Claire stood at a crossroads. Tension crackled in the air, whispers entwined in the melody of uncertainty. Would she be brave enough to confront the shadows and bring forth the truth? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Claire's heart raced as she held the letters tightly against her chest. The words seemed to pulse with energy, like a beating heart of their own. She took a deep breath, determined to face whatever shadows lay ahead. But even as she stood on the brink of discovery, a chill swept through the room, pressing against her skin like the cold rain outside. In that moment, a loud crash shattered her focus. The attic floorboards creaked under the weight of something heavy, sending a ripple of panic through her. She jumped, eyes darting towards the staircase, where a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Grandma Evelyn, her frail frame silhouetted against the dim light, her expression a haunting mix of urgency and fear. "Claire!" Grandma's voice trembled, a desperate whisper that cut through the air. "You need to stop." Claire's stomach dropped. "Grandma, what's wrong? You have to tell me!" But before she could finish, the attic door swung open violently, banging against the wall. Mr. Henderson burst in, his face pale, eyes wide as if he had seen a ghost. "No, no, you can't do this!" he shouted, rushing towards them. But something was off. His breath came quick, panic etched on his features. "Mr. Henderson?" Claire's chest tightened with confusion. "What's happening?" His gaze flickered to Grandma, the tension thick enough to slice. "It's coming back to haunt us all," he barked. "The truth you were digging up, it's more dangerous than you know." Just then, the temperature in the attic dropped sharply. Claire shivered, the hairs on her arms rising. A relentless thumping echoed from somewhere deep within the walls, growing louder, like a heartbeat, insistent and alive. "Every time you dig deeper, the shadows get restless." Mr. Henderson's words hung in the air, heavy with warning. But Claire didn't understand. "What shadows? What are you talking about?" In that moment, Grandma stepped forward, her hands trembling. "Claire, the letters aren't just words. They're memories, dark ones." Her voice broke, emotions spilling over. "They're not just my past. They involve him." She pointed at Mr. Henderson, whose gaze dropped, a flicker of shame crossing his stern features. "What?" Claire's mind raced. "What do you mean?" Before Grandma could reply, the thumping erupted into a deafening roar, shaking the attic. Dust fell from the wooden beams. The walls seemed to quake, and suddenly a heavy trunk, hidden in the corner, flew open. Inside, an array of old photographs spilled out, each image darkening the air around them like an omen. As Claire knelt down to gather the scattered photos, her heart sank. There in one faded picture, she recognized a younger Grandma laughing beside a man she'd never seen before. A man with hauntingly familiar eyes, the same eyes she saw when she looked at Mr. Henderson. "Grandma, who is he?" Her voice barely rose above the chaos. Before anyone could breathe, a scream erupted from elsewhere in the house, ripping through their conversation. It was a gut-wrenching sound, filled with pain and terror. The three of them froze, eyes wide with fear. The realization hit Claire like a brick. Someone else was in the house. "Claire, get out!" Mr. Henderson shouted, his demeanor shifting from frightened to protective. "Now!" But she couldn't move. The truth was unraveling faster than she could grasp it, and the photo in her hand felt like a stone weighing her down. She stared up at Mr. Henderson and Grandma, the two adults who had been her anchors, now cloaked in mystery and shadows. "Who is he?" Claire demanded again, desperation clawing at her throat. "Someone who shouldn't have been found," Grandma whispered, terror flashing in her eyes. The scream echoed again, closer this time, and Claire knew, deep down, there was no escaping the dark secret that held her family captive. Everything she thought she knew was unraveling, and whatever lay behind that door could change everything forever. What other truths were they hiding? And who, or what, was waiting for her just beyond the attic walls? Claire felt the weight of the photo in her hand, its edges sharp against her clamminess. Mr. Henderson looked about ready to bolt. Grandma's eyes darted from him to the door, fear hanging thick in the air. "Who is he?" Claire's voice trembled as she steadied herself against the wall, her breath quickening with dread. Suddenly the floor groaned beneath them, and the walls shuddered as if alive. The scream echoed again. A raw, desperate sound that twisted in Claire's chest. "We have to get out of here," she shouted, panic clawing at her throat. But Grandma stood her ground, her small frame steady despite the chaos. "No, Claire, you need to hear this. The man in that photo, he's not just someone from my past. He's your father." Claire's world spun. "My father? But you never told me." Confusion and betrayal clenched her heart. But there was something in Grandma's eyes, a mix of guilt and desperation that stilled her. "It's complicated, Claire. He's part of the darkness that haunts our family. You must understand." Grandma's words trembled, if coaxing the truth from the depths of her memories. But Claire was caught in a whirlwind of emotions. "Why didn't you tell me? Why hide this from me?" Her voice cracked, disbelief bleeding into anger. "Because I thought it was safer." Grandma's voice rose, nearly drowned out by the pounding that echoed in the attic walls. "But it's alive now." She glanced at the door, terror etched on her face. And suddenly the noise stopped. Silence fell like a thick blanket. But the stillness was an illusion. Just before a new sound sliced through, an intruder's heavy footsteps, growing louder, deeper. "Claire!" Mr. Henderson snapped, urgency snapping him into action. "We can't let him find you. We need to finish this now." "Finish what?" Claire felt the air grow thick and cloying, disbelief heavy in her stomach. "What do you mean?" Before Mr. Henderson could answer, the shadowed figure from the doorway emerged, a tall man, draped in darkness, face obscured. A flicker of recognition flashed across Grandma's face, turning her pale as paper. "It can't be you," she gasped, clutching her chest. Claire's heart pounded. "Who is he?" She stepped back, panic rising. The man moved into the light, and Claire's breath hitched in her throat. His face was strikingly familiar, like a reflection of someone she'd seen in the mirror. This man was not just her father. He was a twisted version of everything she had hoped to understand. "Claire, listen to me," he said, voice low and steady. "I'm here to set things right. You don't know everything." "Everything about what?" she blurted, fear pulsing through her veins. Her hands shook, and the urge to run felt overwhelming. Just then, a horrifying realization crashed over her. You're the one that's been tormenting us. All those family gatherings. You've been lurking in the shadows. Mr. Henderson's face turned white. No, you don't understand. He's stronger than you think. Is this what you were hiding? Claire's voice trembled, rage mixing with fear. You thought I was safe? Keeping me in the dark? Claire, Grandma cried, stepping towards her. You have to trust me. But as they stared at the figure before them, confusion morphed into terror. With each breath, the air thickened, closing in around them like a vice. Shadows stretched further, creeping closer, almost alive. Don't let him in, Grandma whispered, eyes wide. If he gets you, it's over. Claire, listen, the man said, desperation lining his tone. I know the truth is terrifying, but it's the only way to defeat the past. You have to make a choice, your family or the truth. The tension hung heavy, crackling like electricity. Claire felt trapped, each fraction of a second stretching painfully as the shadows closed in. Who was she supposed to trust? And what truth could possibly come from such a dark and tangled web? Fear gripped her heart, and as the man stepped closer, ready to explain, the attic door rattled violently, as if something or someone was trying to break through. With every shadow whispering secrets, Claire knew without a doubt there was no turning back. The sound of the rattling door faded away, but the tension in the attic thickened like a storm cloud, ready to burst. Claire's heart raced as she stared at the shadowy figure of the man who claimed to be her father, while Grandma's expression twisted between fear and desperation. The past felt like it was closing in, filling the corners of the attic with haunting echoes. Set things right? Claire's voice was barely a whisper, confusion crashing over her like a wave. You think you can just walk back in and fix everything? His face flickered with something like regret. You don't know what I've done, Claire, what I've been through. It's bigger than you realize. Before she could respond, Grandma stepped forward, urgency tightening her features. No! Get away from him, Claire! The panic in her grandmother's voice sent icy fingers culping up Claire's spine. Memories flooded her mind. A forgotten photograph. A hint of a smile. A stolen moment. Who was this man really? Why did he feel both familiar and terrifying? Stay back! Mr. Henderson's voice erupted like a cannon, pushing Claire further into the corner. He's not what he seems. You need to listen to me. But just as she was trying to absorb it all, the scream erupted again, tearing through the house with a bone-chilling resonance. This time, it didn't just shatter the moment. It shattered something deeper within Claire. Mom, she gasped, her breath hitching like a sob. The name fell from her lips before she realized she'd said it, a spark igniting something else. A connection, a missing piece that twisted in her gut like a knife. What did? You? The man started, his face momentarily revealing surprise mixed with something darker. You shouldn't have known. Her heart dropped. What do you mean, shouldn't have known? Does she have anything to do with this? Her voice was pure desperation, the chaos spinning out of control. He stepped back, stunned silence wrapping him like a shroud. Claire, you have to understand. Understand what? He shook with emotion. The attic spun around her. Shadows swirling like angry spirits. Suddenly, a sudden crash echoed through the room. The tall figure stumbled back as the entire ceiling above them exploded into a shower of dust and wooden beams. Something heavy fell, nearly crushing them as Claire instinctively threw herself to the side. "What the hell is happening?" Mr. Henderson shouted, panic lacing his words. Through the chaos, Claire caught a glimpse of movement, something breaking through the wreckage. And then, out of the darkness, emerged a second shadow. What? Ooh? Claire squinted into the blackness, her heart racing, a sick feeling gnawing at her stomach. "No!" the man shouted, as the new figure came into focus. A woman, her hair like a dark cascade, framed a face Claire knew too well. "Mom?" The shock sliced through the room like a blade, leaving lingering echoes of disbelief. The woman stepped forward, eyes shimmering with tears that clashed against the eerie stillness. "Oh my God, Claire." Her voice trembled, heavy with unspoken truths. "I didn't want you to find out like this." Claire felt the world around her tilt and spin. "You? But why? What are you doing here?" "Because it's time." The woman's voice broke, but the intensity burned bright in her eyes. Time for the truth to finally come out. As the chaos settled into a still silence, Claire realized the truth might be more than she could ever prepare for. What were they hiding? And was the darkness that surrounded her family connected to the woman she once longed to know again? The shadows seemed to pull closer, whispering without words, and Claire knew now there was no turning back. Each question felt like a fire igniting inside her, burning for answers. But as her gaze flicked between her parents, Claire wondered if she was ready for what their tangled truths could unleash. Claire's heart was racing, torn between confusion and a surge of hope. The sight of her mother ignited an array of emotions so powerful she could hardly breathe. "Mom!" It felt like a fragile whisper in the storm brewing inside her. "Yes, Claire, it's me." Her mother's eyes were wet, wide with the weight of years lost. "I never wanted to leave you." The shadows in the attic flickered, restless and agitated. Mr. Henderson stood frozen as if he were a statue carved from fear and desperation. Grandma, on the other hand, had tears streaming down her cheeks. "Why now? Why this?" Claire stammered, her mind racing. "What happened to you?" The sound of heavy footsteps echoed from below, a relentless reminder that they weren't alone. Claire's heart thudded against her ribcage. She turned to her mother. "What do you mean, set things right? What's going on?" Her mother reached out, but Claire recoiled, startled by the intensity of their reunion. "You don't understand the danger you're in, Claire. The truth, it's more complicated than you realize." "Complicated? Is that what you call this?" Claire's voice simmered with frustration. The shadows pressed in. "All these years, and now you come back with vague warnings? Are you protecting me or trying to drag me into this nightmare?" "Claire," Grandma's voice broke through, "you have to listen. The past isn't just lingering. It's alive. Your father's presence." But before she could finish, the attic door splintered. The heaviness behind it seemed to pulse like a living organism, and all at once a figure lunged through the opening. It was him again, the man claiming to be her father. "You think you can hide from me? You think I'll let you walk away?" In a heartbeat, Claire's instincts kicked in. She pushed closer to her mother, her heart pounding. The man took a step forward, but it was Grandma, who stepped up, shaking and resolute. "You don't belong here. Not anymore." "Mom, step back!" Claire shouted, panic rising. But before she could react, her father lunged toward them. Everything seemed to slow down. Claire felt the air thicken as the shadows leaped around them, bending reality. But just then, a horrifying shriek pierced the air, cutting through the chaos like a knife. The windows rattled, and a gust of wind howled in, extinguishing the flickering light. "Claire!" Mr. Henderson shouted, panic unraveling his words. "You have to run!" With fear electrifying her veins, Claire grabbed her mother's hand. "We can't leave! Not like this!" Her father's voice cut in, low and dark. "You don't know the truth, Claire. You're part of something so much bigger." Claire's voice cracked, desperation clawing at her throat. "What are you saying?" But before he could answer, the attic walls shuddered, as if they were alive. And suddenly, a large chunk of the ceiling cracked and crumbled, cascading down in a shower of dust and debris. Claire ducked instinctively, but the cloud of dust enveloped her. Through the haze, Claire struggled to see. Her vision cleared just enough to catch a glimpse of her father's face, twisting in rage. "You will all pay for what you've done!" The shadows began to ripple and pulse, shapes forming and coiling into the air. Then Claire felt it, a cold, dark presence wrapping around her, seeping into her skin. "Mom!" she gasped, devoid of breath. And in that moment of absolute terror, Claire's world turned upside down. The very shadows they feared morphed into something, someone. The other figure revealed itself through the dust, an impossibly familiar face that shook her to her core. The likeness was undeniable. "Claire, it's me," the figure said, voice softer than a whisper. It was a young version of herself, standing confidently amidst the chaos. "What? How?" Claire stumbled back, confusion spinning like a cyclone in her mind. "Who are you?" But before the figure could respond, Mr. Henderson shouted urgently, "Claire, you have to choose. Who do you trust?" As the attic spun with shadows and echoes, Claire felt a pulse of truth resonate within her. What if the answers she sought had been inside her all along? And why did everything feel like a trap tightening around her? The question loomed heavy, pressing against her chest. Would she push on and confront the dark secrets lurking in her family's history, or flee and relinquish her chance at understanding the truth? Claire's heart raced wildly, tracked between confusion and hope. The sight of her mother, so unexpectedly alive, stirred emotions she had buried deep within. "Mom?" It barely escaped her lips, sounding more like a prayer. "Yes, Claire, it's really me." Her mother's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, glistening in the dim light of the attic. "I've missed you more than you can imagine." The shadows around them seemed to pulsate with unease. A swirling tempest of tension. Mr. Henderson stood frozen, a statue carved from fear and urgency. Grandma looked heartbroken but resolute, tears streaming down her cheeks like rivers of regret. "Why now?" Claire gasped, trembling. "Why come back in the middle of all this?" "Because we don't have much time," her mother said, voice shaking. "There's so much you don't know, Claire. The truth, it's dangerous." Amid the chaos, Claire's gaze darted between her mother and the man who claimed to be her father, confusion battling with newfound familiarity. "What truth?" she pressed. "What's going on?" But as her mother opened her mouth to answer, the door to the attic rattled ominously, followed by a heavy thud. Claire's heart hammered in her chest. "Who's out there?" Suddenly, the door banged open, and in stormed a swirl of shadows, a dark figure enveloped in menace. The presence seemed to suck the air from the room, and the noise seemed to echo from everywhere at once. It was another woman, tall and fierce, She glared at Claire and her family with eyes like smoldering coals. "You shouldn't have brought her here. You were warned." The room fell deathly quiet, her voice a serpent's hiss against the stillness. "Who are you?" Claire's voice shook, a tight knot forming in her stomach. "I'm the one who's kept the real secret safe for too long," the woman shouted, driven by a wild fury. "You're playing with forces beyond your understanding." Her mother stepped forward, eyes wide. "No, you have no right to come here. This isn't—" "Isn't what?" the woman interrupted, throwing her head back in laughter tinged with madness. "Safe? This family hasn't been safe for decades. Claire, do you want to know who you are and what you are?" "Stop!" Mr. Henderson yelled, stepping closer. But Claire felt a wave of dread wash over her like a storm surge. Just then the walls shuddered and trembled, as if alive with unholy energy. The air thickened with tension, and Claire could feel it, the reality of her life shifting rapidly beneath her feet. "What are you talking about?" Claire demanded, focusing on the newcomer. "What do you mean by what I am?" In an instant, the air crackled and the shadows deepened. The woman pointed a glimmering finger at Claire. "You are the key, my dear. The last of your bloodline's curse. A power that can either save us all or destroy everything you hold dear." The echo of her words hung like a thunderclap, leaving Claire breathless. Everything she thought she knew dissolved into unrecognizable fragments. Her family, her history, the very essence of who she was, felt like an elaborate lie. "Lies!" Claire shouted, her voice breaking. "All of this is lies." "No, Claire, it's the truth," her mother cried, urgency rising. "You need to trust us." But Claire felt unmoored, the swirling confusion suffocating her. "What the hell is happening?" Suddenly, the attic windows exploded outward, flinging shards of glass and splinters everywhere. The howling wind rushed in like a roar of an angry beast, beckoning the shadows to dance. Amid the chaos, there was another voice, a distant car horn blaring as if signaling the end. Claire froze when she locked eyes with the shadowy woman. In that moment, everything shattered. The woman smiled, wickedly triumphant. "Welcome to your truth, Claire. It's time for your awakening." As the attic swirled with darkness and chaos, Claire felt something snap within her. The walls that held her past suddenly cracked, and she could sense it. A power awakening inside her, eager to break free. Just as she felt herself teetering on the edge of understanding, the world plunged into a deafening silence. And in that silence, one last question echoed in her mind. Who was she really meant to be? Claire stood paralyzed, the world around her swirling in a frenzy of chaos and confusion. Her mother's face, so familiar yet coated in shadows, flickered before her eyes. The very foundations of her reality were crumbling like the debris from the attic ceiling. Just as she grasped the weight of their words, something shifted in the air, an unseen force changing the atmosphere. Then it happened. A thunderous roar echoed through the attic, rattling the walls and shaking the dust from the rafters. The shadows tightened their grip, swirling like a storm ready to unleash its fury. An electric current ran through Claire, and for a moment, time felt suspended, hanging in the balance. "Claire, we need to go," her mother urged, panic firing through her voice. But Claire couldn't move. The figure of the man claiming to be her father loomed closer, shadows pouring off him like smoke. "Claire, you have to understand!" Suddenly, the attic light flickered violently, and in a blinding flash, everything changed. The shadows rippled, and Claire gasped as her surroundings morphed, folding in on themselves like a collapsing house of cards. Time warped, stretching and compressing reality around her. "Mom, what's happening?" Claire yelled, but the air crackled, tearing the words from her mouth before they could reach anyone. All she could hear was a roaring wind and the wild beating of her heart. Room spiraled, the dark figure of her father distorting and twisting. Then, out of nowhere, a blinding flash burst forth, illuminating the attic in a brilliant white light that swallowed the darkness. And from that light, another figure emerged. A woman with flowing hair and piercing eyes, her presence powerful enough to silence the chaos. "Stop!" she commanded, voice ringing through the air like the tolling of a bell. "You're all in danger!" Claire squinted, trying to comprehend who this new presence was. It felt as if the very essence of the room shifted again as the shadows receded, revealing the true nature of the woman. Her heart raced, recognition flooding over her. "No way. It can't be." The woman stepped forward, her voice softer, now, but still commanding. "Claire, you don't know me yet, but I know you." Her gaze cut straight through Claire, penetrating her soul. "What do you mean?" Claire stammered, backing away in confusion. "I'm you. Or rather, what you could become if you embrace who you are," the woman declared. She extended her hand, and in that instant Claire felt an overwhelming urge to reach out, to recognize something deep within herself. "Stop! This is impossible!" Mr. Henderson shouted, his eyes wide with horror and disbelief as the darkness seemed to warp around him again. "No! You've been lied to," the woman continued, voice passionate. "You don't know the truth of your lineage. The curse has followed your family for generations, and it's time to break free." "Claire, they've kept vital truths from you." Claire's stomach dropped. "Lies? What lies?" Her head spun, thoughts crashing together like waves in a storm. In that moment, a horrifying realization settled around her like a physical weight. It's not just him, is it? You're not just a version of me, are you? Exactly. The woman's voice was steady. I'm the other half, the part of you sealed away to keep the darkness trapped. But if we don't unite, it will consume everything, including your family. "You've got to be kidding me!" Claire exclaimed, shock coursing through her. "This is madness!" But before she could process the enormity of the revelation, the walls trembled again. Shadows writhed in anger, breaking. Free from their confines, they lashed out, striking at the figures in the attic, and Claire braced herself, fear clawing through her veins. "Claire!" her mother cried, reaching desperately for her. "You have to fight it! We need you!" Suddenly, a shriek split the air, raw and terrifying. Claire turned just in time to see shadows engulfing Mr. Henderson. He tried to scream, but it was cut short, swallowed whole by the darkness as if it had never existed. "No! Get away from him!" Claire shouted, reaching out, but it was too late. In that instant, everything she thought she knew shattered like glass, revealing the terrifying truth. She was somehow the key to the darkness, the power contained within her own bloodline. And now, with the horrifying loss of someone she had trusted, a terrifying question loomed over her. Would embracing her own power mean sealing her family's fate, or saving them from the shadows? The air crackled with tension, suffocating like a thick fog. Claire's heart raced as she stared at the figure of the woman claiming to be her future self. "You're saying I'm the key?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "The one who will decide whether we live or die?" The woman nodded, her bright eyes locking onto Claire's. "Yes, but it's more than that. If you harness your power, you can protect the family, change everything. But if you let the darkness inside, it'll consume us all." Claire glanced at her mother, fear tightening around her chest like a vice. "What if I fail? What if I can't control it?" "You have to believe in yourself," her mother urged, stepping forward, urgency pulsing in her voice. "It's been inside you all along. The strength is in your blood." But just then, another screech broke through the chaos, slicing the air like glass. The shadows, restless and furious, surged forward, swirling around them like an angry storm. Claire's breath hitched. "Mom," she cried, instinctively taking a step back. "What do we do?" The woman's eyes widened, fear flashing. "Stay together! We must face the darkness!" But before they could brace themselves, the figure of Claire's father lunged at them, fury etched across his face. "You don't understand, Claire. They're lying to you. No, you're the one who betrayed us all." Her mother's voice broke, the truth spilling out like blood from a wound. The accusation hung heavy, the air thickening with dread. "Betrayed?" Claire echoed, confusion enveloping her. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, another crash echoed from below, sending tremors through the walls. The shadows pulsated, churning and twisting, as if drawn to a different energy. Then, without warning, the darkness dissolved in an explosive burst of colors, and Claire's surroundings morphed once again. A sharp light blinded her, consuming her vision. When it faded, she found herself in a completely different setting, an unfamiliar room filled with old photographs and forgotten memories. Claire blinked, bewildered, taking in the warm, soft colors. It looked like a cozy living room, but everything felt wrong. A familiar scent wafted through the air, vanilla and cinnamon. It belonged to her grandmother. Where are we?" Claire's voice quivered as the realization hit her. "Is this Grandma's house?" Before she could process it, the door swung open, and an older woman she recognized stepped in. Her grandmother, looking just as she did in those old photos. But unlike the frail, anxious figure Claire had known, this woman was vibrant, alive, and glowing with happiness. "Claire! What a lovely surprise," Grandma beamed. "I thought you might drop by for tea." "Grandma?" Claire stammered, disbelief flooding her senses. This can't be real," as the shadows encircled the room like hungry specters. Claire backed away, confusion swirling in her mind. "This isn't real! We were just in the attic! The shadows, they were there!" "Shadows?" Her grandmother looked genuinely puzzled, the gleam in her eyes flickering. "What shadows, dear? I don't know what you mean." "No!" Claire felt panic rise, clawing at her throat. "You have to remember, you warned me about something, about the family's darkness." Before her grandmother could respond, the room shifted again, and suddenly, Claire was not just staring at her happy grandmother. No, there were other figures emerging from the corners of the room. Her father, her mother, and then a shadowy figure creeping in behind them, all looking different, all smiling. "Join us, Claire." They spoke in unison, voices echoing. Sweetly through the room. "You belong with us. We're all together now." Reality shook beneath her, and Claire felt a wave of dread wash over her. "No! This isn't right! You're all deceiving me!" she shouted, her voice breaking. And then it clicked. A terrifying revelation threaded through her mind like poison. You're not my family. You're an illusion. You're all part of the shadows." A collective gasp echoed through the room, and suddenly the light shifted. Shadows creeping back into view, twisting and warping the faces she thought she loved. As the truth crumbled around her, Claire felt the ground slip from beneath her, a darkness swirling, threatening to consume everything. "Don't let them take you, Claire," the future version of herself shouted. Her voice now an urgent cry as reality cracked at the seams. With a surge of clarity, Claire realized she was at a crossroads. The shadows waited, hungry and thrilled, while her true family battled between love and wrath. Would she trust the darkness that felt so familiar, or cling to the fleeting truths of the love she thought she once knew? The question hung heavy, sharper than any blade. Who was she really fighting for? The air felt electric, charged with tension, as Claire stood frozen, caught in a storm of shadows and flickering light. Surrounded by illusions of family, her heart raced with the weight of questions she couldn't even form. Something primal told her that she was on the brink of a truth so deep it would shatter everything. Shadows writhed at the corners of her vision, tantalizingly close, yet terrifyingly real. "Don't let them take you, Claire!" The woman who claimed to be her future self shouted again, urgency slicing through the chaos. "You need to face it. Embrace who you are." The shadows pulled closer, a cold darkness that coiled around her. Images of her childhood flickered in her mind. Her grandmother's laughter, her mother's hugs, fleeting moments of warmth in a world growing ever colder. "They're lies," Claire repeated, voice shaking. "All of this is a trick." But then, out of the chaos, a scream pierced the air, a high-pitched wail that sent shivers down her spine. It echoed around her, shimmered through the shadows, and suddenly everything froze. Each face turned toward the sound, their expressions morphing from anger to shock. "Mom!" A familiar voice shattered the illusion, and Claire turned, breath hitching. There stood Rachel, her best friend, pale and trembling in the doorway. How did she get here? "Claire, you have to wake up! You're trapped!" Rachel gasped, eyes wide with panic. "This isn't real. None of this is real." "Rachel?" Claire's heart pounded, confusion mixing with disbelief. "How did you know? What are you doing here?" "Never mind that. You don't have time," Rachel shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "You have to decide, now. Either embrace the truth or let the shadows consume you." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, trapping Claire in an unending whirlpool of choices. Just as her mind raced, the attic walls shook with a low rumble. The shadows pulsed violently, almost alive, as the figures of her father and the shadowy woman merged, seething with a darkness that felt like betrayal incarnate. "Why is she here?" Claire's father snarled, eyes narrowing. "Because she's part of it," the shadowy woman hissed, pointing a gnarled finger at Rachel. "She knows more than you think, Claire." She's the key. No! Claire started, but a chilling realization gripped her. The truth coiled around her like a serpent, tightening. Rachel didn't just stumble in. She was part of this terrible tapestry of secrets. In the midst of the mounting chaos, Rachel stepped forward, her hands trembling but steady. "Claire, I'm so sorry," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. "You need to know the truth about everything." "Enough of this!" Claire cried, her heart racing. "Stop playing games with me." But Rachel's face contorted into a mix of pain and determination. "You were never meant to find this out like this. I didn't want you to know, but it's time. Claire, I'm your half-sister." Everything froze. Time stopped. The shadows faded as the weight of her words settled heavily over Claire. "What? No!" The truth felt like a knife in her chest, carving away certainty. "That's impossible!" "It's true. Your mom and my dad," Rachel's voice faded into a whisper, as if saying it aloud made it real. "They had an affair. That's why your family is in danger. That's why the shadows are after us." Claire's world imploded. How could this be? Betrayal ignited rage and sorrow deep within her chest. "You're lying!" "No," Rachel insisted, desperation clawing in her tone. "I found out months ago, before I knew you were in danger. They're all tangled up in this horrible legacy, and we're stuck in the middle. You've got to trust me." What was real? The walls felt alive, pulsating with her chaos. Claire's heart thudded painfully, echoing the urgency of the moment. The shadows recoiled, as if waiting for her decision. Claire tore her gaze from Rachel to her mother and then to the figure of her father, both lined with fear and pain. Trust? After all the lies? After everything? But as the attic trembled beneath her, Claire realized she had no choice. The very foundations of her life were crumbling, and the shadows were closing in. "Claire?" someone whispered, voice almost drowned by the chaos. "Make your choice, or lose everything." The question hung in the air, a flickering candle in a storm. Who would she trust, and how would that choice change everything? Claire felt the ground shake beneath her as Rachel's revelation confronted her. A nightmare wrapped in a haunting truth. She stared at her half-sister, the shadows swirling around them still, their tendrils reaching for certainty. "You're saying our parents?" Her voice trembled at the edges of disbelief. The weight of the truth threatened to crush her. "They had an affair, and that's why the shadows taunt us. They are feeding off the hurt, the betrayal." Rachel pressed, her eyes wide, urgency lacing her tone. "No!" Claire shouted, anger spilling over. "Don't pin this on them. They were trying to protect me." "Protect you or themselves?" Rachel countered, pain lacing her voice. "You think this darkness will just go away? You have to confront it, Claire. You have the power." The shadows, as if sensing Claire's turmoil, flickered violently, dancing angrily at the edges of her vision. The very air hummed with tension, and she could feel their restless presence, urging her to succumb to fear. "I don't know if I can handle this," Claire cried, her heart pounding, throat tight. "What if this darkness, it pulls me under?" "You have to choose," Rachel insisted, stepping closer, resolute despite the chaos. "Your family, it's worth fighting for. Break the cycle before it devours us all." The volume surged around them as her father's shadow advanced. "Claire, don't listen. The real enemy lies within." His voice, once filled with authority, now dripped with desperation, a warning wrapped in an unsettling truth. The air felt almost electric as Claire's heart raced. She looked from Rachel to her mother and then to the shadowy figure of her father, memories crashing over her. Each face contorted in a twist of fear and regret echoed in her mind. "I know you made mistakes," she gasped, tearing at the complexity of their situation. "But I can't keep running." The shadows flickered, dark fingers creeping closer. Yet with every heartbeat, Claire unearthed an ember of courage from within her. Deep down, she felt it. Every moment of pain had forged her, every memory interwove with strength. "I refuse to let you control me," she shouted, voice rising, resonating with resolve. "I refuse to live in fear." And then she took a step forward, right into the swirling mass. Time slowed as the shadows thickened around her, chilling her to the bone, wrapping their swirling essence against her skin, whispering treachery in her ears. But she steeled herself. "You don't own me. You fed on my family's pain for too long." Claire's voice pierced through the darkness, igniting a spark within. Light erupted from her core, illuminating the attic like a burst of sunlight scattering the gloom. As the shadows succumbed to the brilliance, a deep crack split the darkness, sending shards flying, exploding in radiant colors that painted the room. Claire felt alive, every cell ignited with power, ready to reclaim what was lost. "Join me," she bellowed to Rachel, her mother, and even her father, now nothing more than a ghost of the past. "Together!" With a gasp, Rachel reached for her hands, eyes sparkling with newfound trust. Claire's mother joined, a radiant light enveloping them, bonding them in a fierce unity. And then, in a heartbeat, Claire saw them. Not the fractured, deceptive shadows, but the family she had longed to reconnect with, in a powerful affirmation of love forged in forgiveness and freedom. "Let's break this cycle," she cried, her voice echoing boldly against the walls. A final wave surged forth, and in an eruption of light, the darkness exploded, consuming the shadows into oblivion, sealing them away like whispers lost in the wind. The attic expanded, glowing with warmth, laughter echoing once more, a place of healing, truth, and love. And as the remnants of what once haunted them evaporated, Claire felt the tightness in her chest dissolve. Emotions washed over her. Relief, joy, even sorrow mingled into a beautiful tapestry of hope. "We did it!" Claire beamed, enveloped in a ring of support. But as the light diminished, she turned to Rachel, and her eyes glistened. "Thank you for helping me see." "Always," Rachel smiled, a bond emerging between them as sisters in every way that truly mattered. In that moment, Claire understood something profound. The fight had not been about darkness or betrayal, but a journey back to family, to healing. Reclaiming their legacy and reshaping their destiny. With a soft smile, she whispered, "Let's build the future together." As that newfound hope painted their possibilities, Claire breathed in deeply. She had faced her family's shadows and emerged on the other side, renewed. And as the dawn's first light broke through the attic, illuminating the path forward, a thrill surged through Claire. She knew this was just the beginning. Wait! Before you leave, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. This is your moment to show your support. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. Don't miss out on the next chapter of our journey. Make sure to flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. And don't wait. even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.